Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to share with you something truly astonishing. How a Ukrainian teen managed to come up with a clever method to take out Russian drones. It's a story of ingenuity, bravery, and sheer resourcefulness. Let's dive right in. It all began amid the ongoing conflict, where drones have become a constant threat overhead. These unmanned aerial vehicles are used by the Russian side to conduct reconnaissance, deliver munitions, disrupt communications, and instill fear. The skies above many Ukrainian towns and frontline areas are patrolled by these drones daily. The technological imbalance is stark. Russia often has more advanced systems, more drones in numbers, and greater resources for electronic warfare. So when a young mind steps up and finds a way to counter that threat, it deserves attention. This particular teen, whose name is being kept private for security reasons, lives in a region that has experienced repeated drone surveillance and attacks. Seeing the danger posed both to property and human lives, they began to think, what affordable, locally sourced method could disrupt or destroy a drone? Professional counter. Drone systems exist, of course, jammers, anti-drone guns, directed energy weapons, but they are expensive, often bulky, and not always available to civilians or small defense units. So this teen embarked on experimentation. The first step was observation, studying how the drones fly, how they're controlled, and how they might be vulnerable. That meant watching altitude, speed, flight paths, radio frequencies, and the vulnerabilities of their navigation systems. Over time, patterns emerge. For example, drones sometimes slow near targets, hover when gathering data, or enter predictable flight paths. Also, many drones rely heavily on GPS, downlink control channels, and onboard electronics that are more sensitive than one might expect. Armed with that information, the teen tried to think of a counter that would hit the vulnerabilities rather than attempt brute force. One of the first ideas was using electromagnetic pulses, or at least a localized electromagnetic burst, to fry delicate electronics. But building a proper EMP device is complex and dangerous, and not something a teen can legally or safely assemble. Also, shielding might reduce its effectiveness. So they looked for something more accessible. Then came the clever twist, using what's essentially a hybrid of a flare and an electromagnetic interference device, combined with a net or physical obstruction. The principle is, trigger a sudden burst that overloads some parts of the drone's electronics, especially in the communication or navigation modules, while simultaneously presenting a physical snare to entangle or disrupt rotors. The teen's setup is compact and mobile. It consists of a small projectile, essentially a cartridge, containing a mix of conductive and rapidly expanding elements. When fired via a launcher built from repurposed materials, the projectile bursts in mid-air near or under the drone. At that moment, the expanding conductive fragments, metallic fibers or wires, spread outward, interfering with the drone's signals and possibly creating short circuits. Then these fibers also tangle with propellers or rotor blades, causing mechanical failure. Because the projectile doesn't have to hit the drone directly, precision is less critical. The idea is to detonate near it and let the interference and entanglement do the work. Of course, timing is essential. The burst should happen close enough to be effective, but not so close as to risk the operator. Also, the composition of the conductive fragments must be light enough to spread but durable enough to conduct. The team conducted tests under controlled conditions, remote fields, safe distances. The initial attempts resulted in partial disruptions. Drones would lose altitude, wobble, or flicker in control. With successive refinement, adjusting fragment weight, spread pattern, detonation timing, some tests succeeded fully. Drones crashed or were forced down. each success feed back into further tweaks, perhaps thinner wire strands or a more isotropic dispersion pattern. One remarkable thing is cost. The materials are relatively affordable. Wires, small explosive charges or pyrotechnics, launchers repurposed from existing mechanical parts. This approach doesn't require sophisticated electronics or high-end manufacturing. That means many units or individuals could replicate it, decentralizing pressure on drone operations. It's a kind of grassroots counter-measure. In practice, this device is deployed by resistance groups near front lines, or by small units defending towns. Before a drone enters the zone, the system is readied. When the drone is within range, the trigger fires the projectile. If successful, the drone is neutralized, either by losing control, disabling motors, or being physically entangled. There are limitations. Range is limited. Only works if the drone flies low or comes within a certain distance. High-altitude drones, or ones with strong shielding or redundancy, might resist such countermeasures. Also, it's risky to deploy near civilian areas. The bursting conductive fragments could cause collateral damage if misdirected. Moreover, Russian forces might adapt, use drones with better shielding, redundant systems, or countermeasures to fragmentation damage. Nonetheless, this team's achievement is impressive. It shows that innovation under pressure can level some of the playing field. A resourceful mind, working with limited means but deep understanding of drone vulnerabilities, managed to craft a system that forces the expensive drones to bow to handmade ingenuity. What's more inspiring is the message it sends. War isn't just fought with tanks and missiles. Sometimes it's fought in garages, basements, workshops, where clever ideas translate into real protection for communities. It's a modern echo of asymmetric warfare, where smaller players use ingenuity to fight off stronger adversaries. The ripple effect is important. Others in Ukraine and around the world can learn from this. Engineers, hobbyists, resistance groups might adapt similar methods. Sharing the concept, without revealing sensitive technical details, can spread. The Russian side, seeing recurring drone failures, might divert resources to counter this low-cost design, thereby diluting their own capacity. What stood out to me is how this team's method combines electronics and physical mechanics, not relying fully on one or the other. The dual approach increases the success rate. Even if the electronics interference partially fails, the physical entanglement might finish the job, and vice versa. That redundancy is elegant. Imagine you're watching a drone in the evening sky. It hovers, scans, maybe drops equipment, Ocal's equipment. A sudden projectile bursts near it. Metallic filaments radiate outward, interfering with its signals. The drone's cameras flicker, its control link stutters. Simultaneously, fibers wrap around propellers, slowing rotation, unbalancing the craft. It starts tilting. The operator on the other side loses control, or the drone crashes. That moment, the moment of triumph, is the product of countless trials, failures, and improvements. It's not magic, it's engineering. It's the result of someone refusing to accept helplessness. That said, this review can't ignore ethical and legal considerations. Using homemade anti-drone weapons carries risk. Misfires could endanger people, unintended damage to infrastructure is possible, and in wartime there's also the question of rules of engagement, but in a context of defense, protecting civilians and resisting aggression, such innovation carries moral weight. Also, this method will push the conflict into new technological escalation. The opposing side may respond. Drones with hardened electronics, shielding, fiber, repelling coatings, redundancy systems, self-repair capabilities. They might carry countermeasures, emitters that burn away metallic fibers, or propeller designs that shed entanglement. It becomes a cat and mouse game. From a storytelling standpoint, this team's journey is inspiring. A young mind refusing to be passive in wartime turned curiosity into protection. And for viewers, this is a reminder. Ingenuity matters. In crises, solutions often come from those willing to experiment, fail fast, learn, and persist. If this were a video, I'd walk through the before and after. The threat of drones, the challenges encountering them, the brainstorming stage, the prototypes, the tests, and finally success. I'd perhaps show diagrams of how the metallic fibers spread, how entanglement happens, how interference disrupts control links. I'd balance excitement with caution, celebrating the innovation while warning about the danger. Thank you for staying with me through this story. It's more than a technical review. It's a reminder that in the darkest times, human creativity shines. Let me know what you think, and if you'd like me to break down the physics or electronics of such a device in a future video. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.